One thing I'm enjoying immensely while I'm rereading the Cahills Vs Vespers series is that the Cahills have had to steal a lot of real objects that exist within our world. That's really cool, especially for a kid series. They didn't have to do that, but they did, and I appreciate the touch. Hi, hello, ¿cómo estás? Welcome to my chan. I am Jan. Hope you're all doing well, staying hydrated, and getting your daily nap in. Here, I read my silly little books from a nostalgic childhood as an adult. This is an adult channel meant for adult viewers, and without further ado, let's get into this recap. Dan and Amy are still wanted by Interpol. They've traveled across 3 countries and stolen 3 historical artifacts. Atticus was kidnapped, and Dan is keeping secrets from his sister, like the fact that he's assembling the Master Serum behind her back, or that his dead father is messaging him. We pick up with Atticus Rosenblum being kidnapped by Cheyenne and Casper Wyoming, who drive to an airport. It is there that Atticus makes an excuse to try to use the bathroom and turn on a transmitter to contact Dan. It is one of the many gadgets left over by his late mother from a Max Beezer. With Dan and Amy, they're back with Jake back at his place. Everyone is frantic. They're updating Attleboro on what just happened. Amy and Dan get into an argument about their father again. Amy almost slaps Dan, but they're interrupted by a message from Atticus. Atticus awakens in Goramy, Turkey with the Wyomings. They take him into a Vesper stronghold, where they interrogate him and threaten him with torture. He begins a convoluted plan to try and stall them.
I'm not stalling anything.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are. You're doing it right now.
With the 7 Cahill hostages, they're getting sick and wasting away slowly. Everyone is on edge, but Ted Starling says he can hear the Vespers above them, and Nellie hatches a plan for Reagan to use the dumbwaiter shaft to try and escape. Vesper 1 is thinking over how the Wyoming's assignment was to find and terminate Atticus, but he hasn't heard back from them. Strange. With Atticus, he's run out of time. He's barely able to activate the system's self-destruct sequence, and the lights go out, giving him a chance to escape. The Wyomings give chase, losing him in the caves. Atticus finds a way out that he is able to climb up through. He runs into Jake, literally, as well as Dan and Amy, but scarcely has time to warn them before the hillside blows up. As they leave, the Wyomings update Vesper 1, with Casper pulling a gun and aiming it directly at Atticus. Amy seizes the opportunity to grab Cheyenne's phone and make a deal with Vesper 1. If they kill Atticus, the Vespers won't get what they want. He concedes to her ultimatum in exchange for the next location, Samarkand, Uzbekistan. He also makes them choose a hostage to kill if things go wrong. Dan chooses Alistair O. Vesper 1 gives them 4 days to find him a stale orb. On the drive to the airport, Jake tells Amy that he and Atticus are going with her and Dan. He thinks it's the safest option for Atticus. And somewhere near our hostages, their wardens get an alert to be ready to kill Alistair. Erasmus meets Dan and Amy at the airport, breaking the bad news about William McIntyre to them. He also shows them the list of cities he'd found on William. Amy orders Erasmus to contact Jonah in Hamilton and report to Pompeii to try to do some research.
I must do research.
So when they check into their hotel, Jake and Amy are stealing quick glances at each other and thinking how annoying the other is while their thoughts betray their true feelings. It's kinda cute, but it's also making me gag a bit.
Stop it. Get some help.
The moment is interrupted by Erasmus's cousin Bartu, who immediately betrays Dan and Amy and hands them over to Interpol. Amy and Dan try to fighting the Interpol agents off, but they're not able to. There's Milo Stranek as well as 2 other agents. And then they are brought to Interpol headquarters and put in jail. To the hostages trying to make their first escape attempt, and Phoenix and Reagan climbing up the dumbwaiter shaft. They climb up into the room with their wardens, watching security cameras and wearing gas masks. Before they can reach them, they're knocked out by an unknown substance. Meanwhile, Dan and Amy have a much more successful escape attempt with the help of Agent Luna Amato. With Ian Cabral in Attleboro, he's examining the piece of paper he found at the Diossi factory. Not only do the cities match the ones found on William, but he finds traces of his mother's Isabel's nail polish on it. He decides to confront his mother to find out the truth.
You sure about that?
You sure about that? We learn Luna Amato is Vesper 5, and her helping the Cahills is not out of the goodness of her heart. The kids learn this news after dinner and make a break for it. Luna tries to follow, but Dan throws a pitcher at her that knocks her down. Oh, and they also steal her car. Good for them.
Cheers, I'll drink to that, bro.
With the hostages, their wardens throw Phoenix and Reagan back down the dumbwaiter shaft. Not a single care for their safety.
You raggedy bitch.
Phoenix is hurt and Reagan sprains her wrist. Ted is nearly decapitated by the dumbwaiter and everyone is slowly losing it. Back with Dan and Amy, they book a flight to Samarkand and have Sinead contact Jake and Atticus. Dan notices how much he's starting to look like his father, which he isn't sure is a good or bad thing.
When will my reflection...
They meet Jake and Atticus at the airport where Vesper 1 texts them. The Cahills demand proof that the hostages are still alive first. In Samarkand, they visit the Ulugh Beg Observatory and learn about the Fakri sextant he invented to help track the celestial bodies, as well as other astronomical instruments like astrolabes. They also get a clue on where to check next.
This is another clue. I'm so tired of all these clues.
Jake and Amy visit a fortune teller, which is a dead end, by the way, while Dan and Atticus go get food. When Dan splits to go get some liquid silk for the Master Serum, Atticus runs into a man who knows his name. He's there to deliver a message from his father. Strange, but okay. When Dan catches up, he attacks the men, which, makes sense. The Vespers send a photo of the hostages, where Nellie is clearly holding some kind of lizard. Amy figures out they can track the hostages' location based on the lizard, and gets Sinead and Evan on it ASAP. In Pompeii, Erasmus, Jonah, and Hamilton spot a famous weather forecaster who is reporting live, Sandy Bancroft. Apparently Hamilton is a big fan of his or something. He even gets his autograph. Jonah blows his cover, easily recognized by a fan, before they even get to the antiquarium, and they have to run for it. Ian is visiting his mother in New York City at the United Nations building, where she is giving a lecture on humanitarian aid. He questions her about the Vespers, but she is a stone wall. He leaves without any answers. Instead of going back to Attleboro, he changes his flight last minute. As the Cahills and Rosenblums are trying to figure out what stale orb could possibly mean, Amy realizes it's not stale orb, it's a stale orb. From this, they try a few more anagrams, finally coming up with the word Astroboro. Sinead learns that Evan sent out the lizard photo to other Cahills, and she calls him out on it. She also requests that he wear a GPS tracker, which he denies. When he calls Amy to complain, she convinces him to wear it anyway. In an unknown location, Vesper 4 updates Vesper 1 with a text message. With our young heroes in Uzbekistan, Amy is analyzing the poem they heard at the observatory. Dan is hiding in the bathroom, reading a text from his father, unsure how to feel. In South America, Ian visits his mother's charity, AIDS Works Wonders, headquarters, and discovers it's a sham. Isabel lied.
I was in pure shock.
Back in Samarkand, at Ulugh Beg Observatory, the kids break in the dead of night.
He said it! He said it!
They're able to decipher the poem's meaning and open a trapdoor in which they find a fancy astrolabe. When they go to make a break for it, police are already in the building. Jake created a distraction, drawing the police's attention. As the deadline loomed closer, the Cahills are frantic to text Vesper 1 and just barely make it. Jake is able to escape police custody after they crash into a ditch and are distracted by another car. While waiting to make the drop at the cemetery the next day, they find Jake, beaten and bruised, at a grave, the one they're supposed to make the drop-off at. A vulture of all things takes the astrolabe, dropping it off to a man in a limo. Everyone is celebrating as they debrief Attleboro. Sinead tells them they've identified the lizard as being native to Argentina, which is where Ian is, so they're immediately suspicious of him.
Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious.
The Cahills are given their next assignment to steal a jewel from Berlin. Dan gets more messages from his father. He even uses Dan's nickname to try and convince him. Poor Dan. These are some tough emotions. No one should have to go through these things alone, especially a child. So Jake and Amy's back and forth is supposed to be a setup for an enemies to lovers dynamic, and I just never cared for Amy's dating life that much. Her first crush was her cousin, Evan has attachment issues, and Jake is such a controlling jerk, even to his own brother. It always breaks my heart to see Dan growing into a more cold hearted person. He's just a child, for crying out loud. He's lying to his family, is all too eager to take a life, and he has no idea what he's risking by assembling the 39 clues. This book didn't have much going on. We barely get to see my boys Hamilton and Jonah. Although now I finally remember why I knew about Samarkand since I was a teenager, so that mystery is solved. But that's all I have to say for now. Catch y'all in the next one where we debrief on Shatterproof. Don't forget to leave a like, comment your thoughts below, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Bye!
Bye!